Springfield Police Department is another step closer to bringing justice to the victims of sexual assault. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Heather Lewis. SPD is starting to put a dent in the number of backlog sexual assault kits at its department. Let's bring in our Jesse Inman, who spoke to the police chief about this effort and an update on more being done to address the problem across the state. Jesse, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Heather. Late last year, the state took inventory of backlogged sexual assault kits, and at that time, there were thousands across the state, over 300 of those at SPD, but the department is making progress.
So we had about 320 backlog kits that were part of the almost 7,000 kits that were discovered throughout the state.
That inventory was taken towards the end of 2019. Since then, Police Chief Paul Williams says SPD has whittled those 320 backlogged kits down to just 119, thanks in large part to a big batch that went out last week.
On Friday, we got to send off another 50 of our backlog kits for testing to the private lab that's contracted through the state of Missouri as part of the SAKI grant, the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative grant, that's administered through the Missouri Attorney General's office.
Normally, those are sent to the state crime lab, which Williams says is overworked with the amount of tests. All of the kits at the police department have a report attached to them, and once results are back, the wheels of justice can begin to turn.
Potential predators, perpetrators of sexual assault out there have not been brought to justice, and then victims of those crimes who have not seen that sense of justice.
This grant is not the only tool being used to clear this backlog. Today, SB 569 went into effect. Attorney General Eric Schmidt says it has two main functions that will help victims out with speed and transparency.
One is that we have a central repository for all the kits, and the Highway Patrol will be managing that. And then also that we have an online tracking system so that victims, law enforcement know where those kits are at all times. And we think that's an important part of the transparency and also maintaining trust with victims who've had the courage to come forward.
And Chief Williams says that they have already applied for another grant to use next year as the department looks to clear their backlog completely. But law enforcement offices aren't the only place that have backlogged kits. Attorney General Schmidt says the state is working on gathering kits from hospitals around the state as well, having already sent out about 250 of those. Heather?